support me, the real and true and only VIP.
Check two. Hello. Red Scary, thank you so much for the 22 months of tier 3. You are the true VIP of this stream, Red Scary. And I know you don't actually want the pink diamond, and I know it's a big bit that we have, and I know you don't really actually want me to give the pink diamond, and we all know that, we all understand this. But nevertheless, pink diamond or no, we all recognize Red Scary's VIP contributions to this stream and the Discord server and the community in general. It's just a bit. She doesn't really want it. It's all a big joke. We all recognize this. How are you doing, folks? How is it going? Look at this guy. Meg Anaconda 6969 says, waiting 8 minutes to hear Russian talking points. You guys are committed. You guys really are committed, frankly. This chat is very committed. They want to hear the Russian talking points. I just got my facts from the Kremlin. They haven't updated their whole technological situation. They're still on fax. So I just received my facts from the Kremlin. I've got all my talking points ready to go. Putin himself signed off on this. And people in the chat are very committed to hearing these talking points. Kremlin approved. And they're all being paid as well, as I mentioned. My Putin points are still on the blockchain. That's how you know they're real, though. All the chatters are being paid as well, though. That's why they're waiting around. I mean, it's not like anyone would watch this and wait around and watch this stream for hours and hours and hours of their life without being paid. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how pathetic would that be? If there was people actually unpaid, just sitting around all day watching this, spending hours of their life in this community. God, how ridiculous. What a ridiculous concept that is. My goodness, I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine, folks. Imagine if I was paying you. No, that's just ridiculous. We shouldn't even joke around about that. It's just ridiculous. That'd be pretty embarrassing. I'm waiting for Rob to subliminally tell us the passwords to log into the Kremlin bank for our rubles. I've actually been blinking in Morse code this entire time. I guess you haven't gotten that updated ledger or whatever, the legend that tells you about this stuff. I've been blinking in Morse code this entire time. You think you're special, Rob? Putin himself had a pizza sent over to me. Oh, that's nice. That's very nice of him. You need the Morse code refresher course. Seriously. So we kind of got to get right down to it today, folks. As I mentioned yesterday, and as I mentioned on Twitter as well, got a big interview coming up in a little over 15 minutes. Hi, Rob. Congratulations on becoming the new leader of the United Kingdom. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You know, just stay humble and hungry. That would be my advice to anyone that wants to get to that level. Just stay humble and hungry, and your chance will come. That's what I did. Anywho, I mentioned the big debacle unfolding with the BC NDP right now, involving their leadership race, where John Horgan is being replaced right now, and a left-wing climate activist, Anjali Appadurai, came out of nowhere to enter this campaign, signed up a ton of new members to the NDP to vote in the leadership election, really changed the dynamic of the leadership race, and really came close to probably would have won the leadership race until I'm hungry but I'm very arrogant. Yes, that's tough. That's a tough combo. Probably would have won this leadership race outright over the more establishment candidate, David Eby, who's not like a neoliberal ghoul in my understanding, but definitely someone with ties to the NDP establishment. Probably would have won the race, and the NDP brass came together to say, no, thank you. This is not allowed, actually. We hear you're signing up thousands of new members, predominantly young people, excited to become a member of the party, excited to participate in democracy. And they said, no, that's actually illegal. It's illegal to do that. Unfortunately, so you're out. You're disqualified. So they just disqualified her from the race. And right at the center of this controversy is Dogwood BC, which is it's like a climate consultancy group that did a lot of work in this campaign for Anjali Appadurai to sign up new members for this campaign, and they're right at the center of this controversy because apparently their contributions were totally illegal. It was illegal and immoral. And in 15 minutes, I'm going to be talking to Kai NAGATA. He's a friend of mine. A works for Dogwood BC. He's a Harbinger Media board member. Wonderful dude. I talked to him a few months back, if you'll recall, when he was with Colin Sutherland Wilson in one of these Wet'suwet'en solidarity blockades. He was with the Colin Sutherland Wilson is with the Gitsan, but it was sort of a solidarity blockade. Talked to him there. Was that a solidarity blockade, or was it just protesting the Coastal GasLink pipeline? Yeah, that's what it was. And so Kai is just a really great guy, great values. He's at the center of this controversy. There's all kinds of controversy swirling around Dogwood and their role in this leadership race, and the sort of climate movement that has been, organizing in BC and trying to influence the direction of the BC NDP, who have gone kind of all in on Coastal GasLink, breaking up these blockades with police violence, old growth logging, fracking. The BC NDP is all on board with all these really regressive activities, energy activities. The BC climate movement has been really trying to out-organize the establishment. It seemed like it was going to work this time, and literally, like Eric's saying, democracy is bad when it's for people I don't like. That's exactly what happened. They tried to take advantage of this leadership race in order to change the direction of the party. The party establishment and their friends in the oil and gas industry came together to ensure that wasn't going to happen. So in 13 minutes, I'm going to be talking to Kai NAGATA about this. I'll just, I got a little clip on this we can play first just to sort of set the table here. So we're just getting right into it today. No chit chat. No chit chat today, folks. We're getting really serious right off the bat here. Here is here's a little just brief news hit from CBC about what happened in this race. This is going to set the table a little bit. In 12 minutes, we're going to talk to Kai Nagata, who's at the center of this swirling controversy. We're going to have an explosive interview with Kai Nagata in 12 minutes' time to talk about this leadership race and the idea of entryism in the NDP in general and what the BC climate movement is doing. We're going to be talking about all of this. Let's just check out this clip first.
BC NDP leadership race is no longer a race. It's down now to a single contender after Angelia Pagerai was disqualified. There were allegations that she broke campaign rules. John Northcott is looking into this in some more detail for us. John, good morning.
Good morning, Heather. It was the race that was, in other words, and now there's talk that the party will sort of move forward the transition from Premier John Horgan is due to step down on December 7th because this decision with this party, if it stands, and there is talk of court action to follow on this, that David Eby would in fact be the leader because he is now, as a result of this party's decision, the only remaining candidate in the running. He says the process has been fair, although others beg to differ, not the least of which the supporters of Angelia Pagerai. Now, the accusations are that the Pagerai camp had worked with environmental organizations, Dogwood, for example, one of them, and worked with them to sign up candidates, supporters of her in this leadership race. The question is whether or not her candidate and her leadership team was aware of this. She argues that they were not. She argues that while out on social media, they were aware that organizations like Dogwood was out there working on their behalf, encouraging people to come and vote, et cetera, but that there was not a coordination around it. The party, after a closed-door meeting for several hours on Wednesday night, coming out with the decision that she would no longer be allowed to stand as a candidate. Here's her explanation.
The argument really comes down to how much did our campaign communicate with those other third-party campaigns, because it's not their membership drive that was the problem. It's whether we had any connection with them and whether we accepted that help in any way. And I maintain that we did not.
So, John, obviously more to come on this story, but what has the early reaction been to it?
Well, those that support Pagerai, she, with an environmental record, a young woman, 32 years old, a woman of color, those who support her are saying that this is, for many of those reasons, why she has been removed from this. Let's have a listen to one.
They don't want to see a young climate activist, woman of color, be disqualified on baseless accusations.
Ridiculous.
Now, the name Dogwood has been thrown around here. It is an organization that encourages people to vote with environmental concerns in mind, and they are coming out saying that this is because the actions being taken by the party, that is, because of their sensitivities around various environmental issues, pointing out that they say, and this is a statement from Dogwood, powerful figures in the BC NDP are avoiding debate on the government's support of, for example, fracking and pipelines, saying they're trying to blow up their own leadership race. So as the parts are still in the air with the blow up, Heather, we'll wait for them to come to the ground and see how this moves forward in terms of what other challenges we're going to see in this leadership race. Heather?
Sounds good, John. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like Dan's pointing out, yeah, the BC NDP and Eddie, or Edie, ginning up support with the unions. I mean, the idea that it's somehow illegal to work with like outside groups in order to increase engagement in your campaign. I mean, you might be able to point to some kind of procedural rule that indicates that that's against the rules or whatever. But like, that seems to me like just like basic democracy, right? It's like the idea that what has transpired here is some kind of illegal or disqualifying maneuvering to just gin up grassroots support. Grassroots organizations organizing people to vote for a candidate. Very unfair and undemocratic. The USW did exactly the same stuff in support of EB. This attack on Angeli is pure horseshit. Yeah, I think I bookmarked something about this as well. Also, the actual fossil fuel companies that, of course, do not want to see a radical climate activist in charge of the party are deeply implicated in this as well. Here we got this tweet from Drew Ojaj that says, a key to understanding the BC NDP, the deep involvement of fossil fuel lobbyists. Elizabeth Cull, who's in charge of the leadership contest and called for Angeli's disqualification, is a senior associate at Hill and Knowlton, a corporate consultancy with deep fossil fuel ties. So it seems like some connections with certain consultancy groups bad, but when the actual person who's in charge of the leadership contest has their own connections to corporate consultancy groups tied to the fossil fuel industry, that's just A-okay. Hill and Knowlton have been called out for its global fossil fuel industry work and has done lots of consulting for fossil fuel companies in Canada. So when people cite Cull's report as a credible source, they're citing the work of someone who works for a consultancy with deep ties to the companies that are directly benefiting from climate destruction. There's a piece in here from the breach. The BC NDP's revolving door with oil and fracking is at the heart of this democratic crisis. This is Drew's investigation with Dan Dara, details the fossil fuel connections of the people who conducted the smear campaign against Angeli, which I can throw here. Totally normal stuff. No, totally okay for this to do. Totally democratic, remember. It's only bad when they do it. Yeah. And here's the statement from the NDP. The BC NDP executive has voted to support the chief electoral officer's recommendation to disqualify Angeli Appadurai as a candidate as a sanction for violating the rules. This has been a challenging period for members of the party, and I thank Elizabeth Cull, the party's table officers, and the executive for their dedication to their roles. I know they did not make this decision lightly. As there's only one approved candidate in the leadership race, the CEO is considering moving up the election date and will have more to say on this tomorrow. So some really normal stuff going on here, I think, is the main takeaway. Oh, shit. Where did you go? Okay, there you are. Very normal stuff. I'm going to get my Zoom link here. I'm going to go ahead and send that over to Kai Nagata of Dogwood, again, who's at the center of all this swirling controversy. There's my invite link. I'm going to go into my email and send this over to Kai Nagata. Oh shit. Okay, I have to send it here. So this should be good. Definitely interested in hearing Kai's perspective on this. If it works to send him the link here. It's so infuriating. What's the point of the NDP even existing? And I mean, this is the reason that I wanted to cover this. You know, as we know, this is like not a real country. I don't feel a ton of connection to the BC. The NDP just feels like a totally different country. But you know, technically, we are still all connected. Even though it's a fake country, it still continues to be a country. And just this whole idea of changing the NDP from the inside. I mean, I know a lot of people that I like and respect a lot that have made this their kind of cause of like, this is how you change politics in this country. This is how we make the NDP good. We're gonna nominate candidates in the NDP that are actually good. They're gonna hold the party to account. Climate activists, social justice activists. We're gonna run in leadership elections. I mean, there's people. This has been like a long-term plan to kind of like try and take over, to wrestle back power from this sort of NDP establishment. And I think there's a lot of reason, frankly, to be very skeptical of that, which has been displayed. And I think the actions of the NDP at a provincial level in both Alberta and BC are, I think, good examples of that, of why this seems like a fruitless thing. And then these moments come, like right now, when it seems like it's an actual possibility, maybe, to install someone in this powerful position in the NDP that can actually change things. And you see the way that the NDP reacts to that, like a bunch of white blood cells coming to get rid of like a cancerous tumor or whatever. It seems like we see the same thing in all kinds of different situations with this kind of like entryism, right? As we saw in the Democratic Party, we saw it in the Labour Party with Jeremy Corbyn. We're seeing it in the NDP, the absolute hostility that there is to anyone with actual progressive or left-wing or socialist values entering these parties. We see them, as time and time again, we see the establishment come together to ensure this doesn't happen. They just want to be orange libs. And now let's talk to Kai NAGATA about this and get Kai's take. Again, Kai's at the center of this swirling controversy. This is an exclusive, explosive interview, which you can only see right here on TRRS. Here's Kai NAGATA. Seems like he's making breakfast or something. Hello.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Kai. How's it going? What's up?
Good. How you been?
I'm all right. How are you? Were you making breakfast there?
I had a little granola.
Okay.
What do you have?
Nice. What did I have? I made like an egg sandwich. I'm kind of like pioneering a special kind of sandwich, which I'm calling tentatively a spicy egg boy.
Oh,
which is pretty
see,
nice.
This is why I'm trying to turn the tables, as it were, in these interviews. Really turn the microscope back on the host, and we end up learning some interesting things.
Yep.
The spicy egg boy sounds like a worthwhile contribution.
It's very good. I highly recommend it. I can give you the recipe later.
Okay.
So Kai, listen, you're at the center of a swirling controversy right now. It's hard to believe.
Yes. Who would have thought that signing up a whole bunch of people to the BC NDP would result in such a violent reaction? But there it is. First party in history that doesn't want more members.
They're really not happy with you right now. It's really unbelievable. No. Do you just want to? I just spent about 15 minutes kind of recapping the situation, but do you just want to give your perspective right now? What's going on? Because you're being specifically named in a lot of like what could qualify as kind of like almost slanderous accusations about your activity surrounding the BC leadership race. Do you just want to talk a little bit about Anjali Appadurai and Dogwood, and your perspective of what has happened in this leadership race? Sure.
I'll go back to 2014. So this was the last time that the BC NDP had a leadership race. They just lost this election to Christy Clark, and the whole party was demoralized, and they were ready to pick a new leader. And I was looking at the party rules, and it said anybody 12 and up can join the BC NDP and become a member. And I thought there's a lot of teenagers who are super concerned about climate change and other issues. I wonder how many of them it would take to actually like organize a voting bloc in the leadership race. And I remember writing about it at the time, and I got a phone call from one of those NDP party insiders, basically warning me to shut the fuck up. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is kind of a raw nerve. They have this like constitution that allows any resident of BC 12 and up to join the party, but they really don't seem to be excited about publicizing that fact to the public. So it turned out in that race that John Horgan was basically installed without a vote. That's how they seem to like to run these things, and nobody ran against him. So same thing we saw this time around with David Eby, the next premier of BC, which is basically, Horgan's team was able to muscle everybody else out of the race, and so nobody else from the caucus decided to challenge him, and so there was no race. Anyway, you fast forward 8 years, and Horgan finally decided to hang up his hat. And once again, this question's on the table of like, could we organize a block of people who are interested in picking the next premier? How many would it take? And it turns out in the interim, while Horgan was the premier, they lost about 9,000 members. I mean, this is the governing party of BC. And at the beginning of the leadership race, they had about 11,000 members. And I think that's the way they like it. I think they like having a tiny, anemic membership, a membership so small you could drown it in the bathtub, right? Like a membership that you can basically bully and outmaneuver in order to advance the agenda of the corporate lobbyists who really control the party. And so we thought, this is an organization that is ripe for a little bit of democracy. However, there still wasn't a candidate who was willing to challenge the establishment. And so very quickly, David Eby, who is the Attorney General, he is the Crown's top lawyer in BC, and he has been in that position all through the 3 Wet'suwet'en raids, this whole transition in the BC government's legal strategy to trying to basically incarcerate Indigenous land defenders to take them off the front lines. That's all been happening under Eby's watch, and I think he's got a lot to answer for on that and other files. And I was really excited when Anjali Appadurai said that she was going to jump into the race because she's a climate activist. I mean, we've all known her for years for her work out here in BC, and she's been part of this grassroots movement that has really pushed back against the power of oil and gas lobbyists in the province. And so, the idea that there would actually be a contested race, that there would be somebody who's willing to just speak the truth, like just talk about the situation that we're in, was really exciting to a lot of supporters. And so at Dogwood, I mean, what we did was encourage people who wanted to vote for the next premier to go to the general BC NDP sign-up page and pay $10 and become a member. And so that is the heinous crime for which I face 20 years in the gulag. But yeah, the party was really, really unhappy about the number of climate voters and youth essentially that signed up. And so they did the only thing that they could, which is to basically hold this political witch trial and take Appadurai out of the race.
It's really amazing because, as much as the NDP tries to position itself as like of our 3 main parties, the sort of more social democratic party, the more climate oriented party, but the actions of the BC NDP are the things that the actions of the BC NDP are like what outside, jackasses like me like to, and shit disturbers like to point to is like, well, why would you trust this party? Look what John Horgan's doing. Look at their role in increasing and supporting the old growth logging industry, fracking, ramming these pipelines through unceded Wet'suwet'en territory, the violent police raids, blocking up these blockades. It's like a huge impediment to the general, like the federal party being taken seriously in any way to deal with these issues. And then for something like this to happen, when you have someone actually trying to participate, like engage in the sort of participatory democracy to change that perception, which would be really valuable to the party, you would think. It's just really incredible to see them react like this. I was just describing it before you got on, like white blood cells going after like a cancerous tumor or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the idea that like you would sign up people that want to believe in the NDP, that are excited about being part of the NDP, that want to make the NDP more of a climate-focused party, a more radical party, and to see that sort of excitement and for them to immediately get scared and shut it down, it's just really remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the majority of those people, once we got on the phones, we started talking to our supporters, we realized that the majority of those people who were willing to take out a party membership had been members in the past, right? There's thousands and thousands of people in BC who have quit the NDP over those decisions, over the the militarized police raids on Wet'suwet'en territory, building the Site C Dam, which is just like, I don't know, Muskrat Falls on steroids. Like, it's going to be the most expensive electricity in North America, totally corrupt project top to bottom, built on like a fault line on mud that I think is like a geological disaster waiting to happen. So they've done all of these stupid moves that basically benefit the class of corporate lobbyists that run the party and who get contracts. Like, their whole job is to arrange access for their corporate clients to these ministers. And so that's why they're interested in winning power and winning elections, is so that they can build more fucking wine cellars and buy more getaway homes and Airbnbs, right? Like, this is who we're dealing with. Their motivations are not that complex. And so anything that threatens that meal ticket obviously is an existential threat to these big corporate lobbying firms. And so those are exactly the people who were brought in to run this hit job on Appadurai. But going back to, you know, the NDP's record and the sort of like heart and soul of the party, I think the vast majority of the people who signed up were ex-members who had quit the party in disgust and finally saw a candidate who was presenting a policy program that actually made sense, that addressed the crises that we're facing head on, that talked about how we're going to tackle the climate emergency and the housing crisis and the cost of living crisis all at the same time.
Well, I was going to say, like, BC is really ground zero for a lot of these major crises that are affecting the entire country. And you see it in BC almost as stronger than it is like throughout the whole rest of the country, right? When it comes to climate or housing, it's a disastrous housing situation in BC.
It really feels like we are the guinea pig on a lot of these things, and we are the place where we lost an entire town last year in a wildfire, and there's many places in BC that are becoming basically uninsurable, where you can't get home insurance because the floods and fires are so bad that the insurance adjusters look at the numbers in their spreadsheet and they're like, yeah, we're not insuring your home. So we're on the verge of losing entire communities. And we had a heat dome last year where 600 people died, like cooked to death in their homes, and the response from the government was just like, oh, sucks to be them. Horgan just shrugged it off and said fatalities are a part of life. And that was people who were dying in public housing, people who were living in these crappy apartments that were not brought up to standards, where they literally could not survive the weather that we're getting now because of climate change. And the government just completely shrugged it off. And so when you're faced with something like that, the sane and rational response is to try to change it. And that is what thousands and thousands of people tried to do by participating in this leadership race. And the response from the party establishment, and specifically the oil and gas lobbyists who control key levers within the party and who maintain that revolving door of access to those ministers and to the next premier, those people swung into action and used all of the dirty tricks that they've honed over the last 20 years to take out somebody who was actually trying to offer an inspiring alternative. And if there's one sort of silver lining to this, I think it's that they've finally definitively demonstrated what they are as a party. And it's not a democratic organization. It is a private club that makes up its own rules. And that's what they did last night when they disqualified her. They didn't even let her speak at the meeting. Very grim, very, very show trial. They brought her in and basically, like, it sounds like they read out a litany of accusations against her and then didn't let her speak in her own defense, and then they disqualified her.
It's funny because a lot of these like establishment people in these big parties are the first people to talk about Stalinist purges and all these kinds of things, but it's like they seem to have no fucking issue when it comes to protecting their own spot and their own power with engaging in a lot of that exact kind of behavior. One of the things I was struck by, I think, listening to some of the complaints from people in the party about Anjali Appadurai's campaign, is this kind of obsession with, it's like a hostile takeover. And this kind of like framing this as if this is somehow inherently like wrong or immoral or something, to try and influence the party, and not just describing like what politics literally is. And it seems to me as well that with all their obsession about the idea of a hostile takeover and making sure that she goes on the record to say, no, of course I'm not engaging in anything like that, it really seems like that's the only thing that seems like they're showing is an option for people that want to actually influence the party, is to engage with it like that. Because obviously when people do try and engage in these things completely democratically, it gets shut down using these really nefarious means.
There was a hostile takeover, and it was by the oil and gas lobby. That already happened. And so right now the battle is between grassroots members and these corporate lobbyists who control the party. And I think there are some really fun opportunities coming up. I mean, I'm still a member. I plan to stay in the party and keep organizing. And I think there's a lot of people who have really had their eyes opened by this experience. I mean, it's one thing to sort of suspect that your democracy is being taken over by corporations. It's another thing to just have it like laid out nakedly in front of you. The woman who wrote the report, she's a Hill and Knowlton lobbyist who lobbies for the fracking industry, right? Like the people who quite literally did the dirty work to take Apadarai out of the race are self-interested corporate lobbyists who would have lost, I think, clients and lost access if she had won. And she was absolutely poised to win. I mean, she clearly had the numbers, otherwise they wouldn't have resorted to these extreme measures. So I think I made the comparison to Bernie Sanders back in August when Apadarai first ran. And I really think that it's playing out in very similar fashion, right? You have a super energized grassroots base that threatens the donor class and the lobbyist class and the party establishment, and they pull whatever strings they can in order to try to discredit and disqualify her voters and her supporters. And when that didn't work, I mean, when they realized that there was no way of distinguishing all of these ex-members from true, loyal establishment members or whatever their standard was, they resorted to basically libel and dirty tricks. And so I think it's basically like a mini version on the West Coast of what the Sanders campaign went through, and arguably Corbyn too. Yeah,
absolutely. There's strong parallels to that. Can you talk a little bit about like you talked about in general terms like what Dogwood is being accused of? Can you talk specifically about what these actual accusations are? I know there was stuff about, did she actually have interactions with Dogwood or some kind of connection or encourage these kind of grassroots movements? I don't even know if that's against the rules or not, but that seemed to be part of the accusations. Can you talk a little bit about like what these specific allegations were about what kind of illegal activity went on here?
Sure.
With Dogwood?
So there's two sets of rules. There's the law, which is administered by Elections BC, which is our election regulator in BC. And then there's the BC NDP's internal contest rules. And those are not only subject to change, but Elizabeth Cull rewrote the rules 3 times during the party leadership race in order to retroactively bring accusations against Apadarai. And laws had been broken and, justice must be done. Then the elections regulator would be investigating. That's not the case. So this whole dossier, the PDF that was put together by their, again, corporate lobbyist, ex-politician, hatchet woman, that was all done, completely parallel to Elections BC. So the main accusation that she brings against Dogwood is what she calls soliciting fraudulent memberships, and her standard for fraud is that people may have supported or been members of other parties in the past. And so her accusation is that unless you truly, in your heart, can pass a loyalty test, not just to the NDP as like a historical phenomenon or a philosophical vehicle, but to the current NDP, the NDP that wants Dave Eby to win, if you harbor some doubts in your mind or in your heart, then you're not a true supporter and you've committed fraud. So she was going after people who, they had like a paid calling firm dialing all of these new members and grilling them on the phone. It was McCarthyist, right? It was like, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Green Party, for example? And they were disqualifying people who had made a donation to the Green Party in PEI, 10 years ago. Like, if you have ever shown evidence of sympathizing with one of our political enemies, then your membership is in question. And she used that to accuse us of fraud, which is a crime. And I haven't talked to any libel lawyers yet, but I think there's a lot in this report that might warrant retraction. And if they won't retract, then there are some damaging allegations in there that went completely unchallenged. When Cull conducted her quote unquote investigation, she sent me one email to my personal Gmail account with 4 questions about my involvement in the Apadarai campaign. I answered those questions and then I never heard back. I didn't get acknowledgement that she'd received them. There was no evidence. There's no opportunity to clarify. There's no follow-up questions. There's no phone call. And then Dogwood appears 98 times in her PDF. So what it felt like is kind of a paint by numbers exercise, right? They had a conclusion that they were gunning for since the end of August, and basically they just cherry picked whatever they scraps of like Zoom call transcripts and like paragraphs out of blog posts in order to build this case against Apadarai, and they used dogwood as the excuse to do that. So yeah, she called it fraudulent to sign up people who used to be members of another party. I mean, I thought that was the point of leadership races, honestly.
I did too, yeah.
When you are running a campaign for leader, the whole idea is to try to bring in new energy, bring in new supporters to the party to support you so you can win. And the way you do that is by presenting a policy program that excites people outside of the current base. And so that is exactly what Apadarai did. And that's a problem now for the BC NDP, apparently. The other thing that she was really obsessed with is this Zoom meeting that was held back at the beginning of August, which is the moment where Apadarai actually decided to run. And so she called together this community town hall. Basically, there's over 100 people, including volunteers from her last federal run, because she was an NDP candidate in Vancouver in the last federal election. And so I was invited and I attended. And the question was put to us, like, what do you think if somebody with her credentials jumped into the race, if somebody who is actually willing to look at the climate emergency in the context of the larger crisis of capitalism, like what would the interest be from your supporters? And I said, like, I think we could sign up thousands of members. Like if there was somebody who was actually willing to present the vision that she went on to do, then there'd be tons of people who are excited about that, and we'd go hard and encourage them to sign up to BC NDP. So that was interpreted by the party as like this conspiracy caught on tape, right? And what it was barnstorming, right? It was like a classic community organizing meeting where a candidate asks, like, do I have support? Are there going to be enough people so I don't fall flat on my face? And we offered our opinion, which is that, yeah, I mean, there would be a lot of people who'd be interested in this campaign if you were to run. And so at the end of the meeting, she said, okay, I'm going to run. And that's when like she started from that day and then had to find like a campaign manager and financial agent and volunteers and put the whole thing together. The way the party interpreted that was that this was like this secret cabal, right? Like Avi Lewis, who's the son of a former NDP leader, hosted the meeting. And so they've got these transcripts from him being like, you know, then Mr. Lewis says, can we sign up 1,000 new members in the next 36 hours? This is evidence of this, like this grand conspiracy with third parties.
This grand conspiracy to commit democracy. Oh my God.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And
terrifying.
so really, I mean, I think it's like this kind of ink blot test, right? Like what you see in that recording is really dependent on how you view these exercises of democracy and what you think politics is. And so for Apadarai, who comes out of the climate movement, this was a chance to test whether this was serious, like whether if she ran, you know, the organizers in the climate movement would be able to generate the kind of excitement that would allow her ideas to get into the contest. And indeed, that's what happened. I mean, she put together an amazing platform. Like I'll just say personally, like I've never seen a political document that worked so hard to incorporate the perspectives and the lived experience of all these people on the front lines. Like she had drug user activists, she had like emergency room doctors, she had people who were living through the collapse of these systems, who were actually identifying specific policy proposals, and they put all this down on paper in a very like sincere and heartfelt effort to try to chart a roadmap out of the incredibly grim spiral that we find ourselves in British Columbia. I mean, you talked about some of this earlier, but not only are we losing entire communities to floods and fires, but we are losing over 2,000 people a year to a completely preventable poison drug crisis. And so she talked about increasing access to safe supply and the legalization of drugs that are killing people, right? And that is so far outside of the political mainstream right now, which is basically like they seem to be competing over who can preside over the deaths of more drug users and who can put more homeless people in jail. And she comes out of the blue with this incredibly detailed policy program that shows how we're going to reinvest in these public institutions and really take emergency action on these crises so that we can shield people from the ravages of the market and actually improve their material conditions so that we don't slide into fucking fascism. And that is really what I think the missed opportunity is here, which is like the NDP will always justify their actions by saying, well, we've got to beat the BC Liberals in the next election. So we can't have like a left-wing candidate because, voters in the suburbs won't go for it. I'm not so sure about that. And the polling that I've seen in BC shows that either Apatarai or Evie could beat the BC Liberals in a general election. The difference with Apatarai is that the prescription that she brought forward, I think, actually provides a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of insulation against that slide to the right, which is caused by I think that the government has completely abandoned you, right? That you are on your own, that we are all just individuals, just atomized, alienated individuals at the mercy of corporations in the market. And she put forward a vision of a society that actually takes care of each other. And that is why so many people signed up. I mean, if you go back to the accusations by the party, I mean, none of the tactics, none of the sort of campaign strategy that they accuse her of, none of that would have been effective if she hadn't brought forward a vision that genuinely inspired people, including thousands of former members and youth and people who'd never joined a party in their life. And that is why she was such a threat. That is why she had the numbers to win. And ultimately, that's why they kneecapped her. And I think the saddest part of this is that she actually offered like a pathway, not only to win the next election, but to actually make a difference and save some lives. And they chose to slam the door on that.
Yeah. Well, it's like they're so concerned about losing the next election that they see someone getting people excited about the party for the first time in a generation and say, no, we don't want that. Classically, how you want to really ensure that you win elections moving forward.
The other thing I want to mention about Apatarai is that she's the candidate who came up to Wet'suwet'en territory, who talked to the hereditary chiefs, who went out on the territory and actually saw firsthand the scale of the Coastal GasLink pipeline and the militarized police enforcement. I mean, she was there the day that cops arbitrarily arrested a couple of land defenders. She went and sat with Unistoten families, and she ate the traditional food, and she rafted down the river, and she really listened. She was there, and I'll give the Green Party credit too. They sent their two MLAs, Sonia Furstenau and Adam Olsen, and they were all deeply affected by this firsthand experience. It's really hard to explain the scale of what we're facing in northern BC without looking at it and standing there with your own 2 feet. And so, to her credit, Apatarai did that in the summer, and I think it was pivotal in her decision to run because she understood the scale of what we're up against. And just to make it clear, I mean, the Coastal GasLink pipeline is one project. Right now, the BC NDP is planning 3 more pipelines. I mean, the next one in the hopper is Enbridge's West Coast Connector gas transmission line, which is 4 times the capacity of Coastal GasLink, and that would go through Gixan territory on the north side of Highway 16. That is an absolute behemoth. Like, if we're going to blow our climate targets with Coastal GasLink, the next one and the next one and the next one, it just pushes things so far out of reach that the survivability of our communities is in question. And I think if you're going to call yourself like a progressive party and say you've got a climate plan, it's impossible to reconcile this vision of not 1 but 4 fracked gas pipelines across northern BC, protected by hundreds of cops in body armor with assault rifles, and call yourself a progressive party. And so that is the debate that she threatened to bring. They were scheduled to go toe to toe, the 2 candidates, a couple of weeks from now. And I think the party was just terrified of the sort of public spectacle of this tiny 32-year-old climate activist going up against one of their senior government ministers, the guy who's been responsible for all of those raids and the prosecutions, and who's really, I think, has to wear a lot of the government's actions on Wet'suwet'en territory. And they didn't want to have that in the news cycle. They didn't want to have that video out there. And so that's why there was this urgency to basically build this case against her and take her out of the race before they could get to debates.
Yeah, and I think we've seen, I know it's not a direct analogy, but I think we saw in Alberta what happens, I think, when the NDP tries to position themselves as like the kind pipeline party, which is that they open the door for more reactionary parties. They alienate their entire base. They alienate the climate movement. They alienate the Indigenous justice movement. And then they open the door for more reactionary parties to come in and continue those pipeline projects without any of the minor social justice reforms that they're trying to implement at the same time. That's the infuriating thing, is that it just seems like they're opening the door for an even worse situation down the line. rather than being political geniuses where you position yourself right in the center and where you can be the oil and gas party and the nice social justice party. They're just leading to a situation where you're going to get only one side of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened in Alberta, and that seems like it's a possibility for BC as well.
Well, I think the game in Western politics for a while has been to basically try to drive down participation so that you can better predict and control the outcomes of elections, right? Like this whole consultant class of sort of political wizards with their seat models and their polling projections. All of this relies on basically a depressed electorate, and all of those models are sort of easier to predict when you have fewer variables. And so I see a pattern where the parties, like the BC NDP is a classic example, suppressing their own membership, like actually trying to drive their own membership numbers down, but also trying to drive down voter turnout. I mean, the reason why I think the centrist parties in North America run such boring fucking campaigns is because they don't want like a surge of people showing up to vote who wouldn't otherwise vote. The problem is that the right is figuring out that they can actually excite and mobilize people around things like the vaccine mandates. I mean, Pierre Poilievre's campaign is a really powerful example of grassroots mobilization, pulling people into politics who never would have been conservative members or trusted a mainstream politician before. And so the right has, I think, correctly pivoted to the era of like mass mobilization. They're realizing that they have to give all kinds of people a reason to show up to vote, and they're willing to cater to all sorts of little micro issues that are going to motivate people. Whereas the sort of so-called progressives, they're still stuck in this kind of like 2000s model of like, let's just assume that voter turnout goes down every election, and then we'll try to chip out these kind of marginal wins in certain ridings on the edges of the map. And that's just a recipe for a blowout. It's just it's a total disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And in BC, I mean, what we just saw in the municipal elections in Vancouver was a takeover of City Hall. So the 7 out of the 10 council seats and the mayor are with this new party that basically ran on like crime and punishment, right? It grew out of these Facebook pages that were created to like humiliate and publicly shame unhoused people and drug users. And so this like reactionary homeowner movement morphed into a political constituency, and in a low turnout environment like a municipal election, they just blew out the left. Like there used to be a civic left in Vancouver. Now you've got one left-wing councillor, 2 Greens, and they're going to be powerless really to stop anything that this ABC party in Vancouver wants to push through. And they were endorsed by the police union. So that's the first time that the cop union in Vancouver has gotten actively involved in politics. And they were backed by guys like Chip Wilson, the Lululemon billionaire, right? Who donated a bunch of money to run these like shadowy third-party Facebook campaigns to sort of prime the pump for reactionary politics at the civic level. And so not to weave a whole corkboard with red yarn, but the same campaign.
Oh, I think there's something there. I think there's something there that's very ominous that's on the horizon that you're pointing to. I mean, it's a coalition of powerful capitalists and police unions like determining democracy for everyone. That spells that's a troubling situation. Sorry,
so that
continue.
model that worked at the civic level in Vancouver, it worked spectacularly. And so at the provincial level, now they have a couple of years to rev up the machine. And we're seeing signs that basically the attack line on David Eby is going to be like, he's soft on crime, right? Like that's the BC Liberal line. That was their first question in the House this week, and then we had this really tragic incident in Burnaby, which is a suburb of Vancouver.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where a female police officer was stabbed by an unhoused guy in crisis, and of course, events like this are going to be immediately politicized, but they're politicized by the right. And so when you have this like mile-long convoy of cop cars, turning the sirens on for a fallen officer, it builds this sense in voters' minds that the world is sliding into shit. That's totally true. Our systems are crumbling, and the only people that can protect you are the cops, basically. And so the political prescription is like, lower taxes, more cops. And what does that mean? That means starving everybody of social programs, of public housing, of all of these, the bulwarks against that immigration. That
Which
leads
means more unhoused people and more drug use and more crime, and this cycle, this perpetual cycle that just gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
Cool.
So that's really where things are headed in BC. And I'll just go back and say, I think that the only sort of off ramp, the only option that the quote unquote left party had was encapsulated by a powderized campaign and the policy that the platform that she brought forward, that she built in collaboration with all of these movement activists from across the province. And for the party to turn its back on that means they now face a very high stakes experiment where they're going to try to continue this kind of like centrist incrementalism in the face of intensifying collapse. And so that might work for one election cycle. I doubt very much it'll work for 2 election cycles, and they don't have any ideas or plan for what comes after that. And so I really think this is a huge missed opportunity. It's a major strategic error by the party, and they're really cutting off their nose to spite their face.
Well, Kai, I know you got to go, but thanks for coming on here at short notice. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I wish you all the best in continuing to try and organize and try and make a difference out there and BC in the face of all these really powerful reactionary currents that seem to be leading to this really dark path. It's a fucked up time, but I appreciate that there's people like you out there, trying to do something about it. Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in and putting the spotlight on what's happening in BC. I think we get sort of tagged as this like progressive paradise far too often, and I really appreciate you peeling back the layer of scum on top of the
On the contrary, like you're pointing out, it seems like a sort of a petri dish that's giving us all a look at like the future of where we're all headed in this country and throughout with the Western world. It seems like
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Thanks, Kai. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon, man.
Okay.
Take care. Okay, kind of got everybody. Well, that's kind of depressing. The depressing stuff, wasn't it? I'm so mad. It is pretty depressing. Like Kai was saying, I think BC has a reputation in Canada as being this like progressive utopia, and Canada kind of has this unearned reputation of that similar unearned reputation of being some kind of bastion of like progressive politics. And I think, for people that watch this show that are not from Canada that maybe had that idea, generally it seems like, for me, one of the main things that I try to accomplish in this sort of journalism or the commentary that I do is dispelling this notion about Canada. That's kind of, since I started working on this stuff, oh my goodness, metal dipshit. Since I started working on this stuff, that's been kind of my main goal. And I think talking to Kai about this is really a really about what is happening in BC is really a stark example of this. Metal dipshit. Hold on, can I repeat the?
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I couldn't repeat the main one. Metal dipshit. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Very much appreciated, metal dipshit. As it so happens, the West is actually anti-democratic. We also love lecturing other countries about democracy, don't we? The mask has been ripped off. Absolutely. Vancouver has tech bro progressivism, like racist dumb guys wearing Patagonia vests. Yeah, we get a lot. It's similar to kind of San Francisco in that way, right? A city with like this sort of unearned progressive reputation, which is really ground zero for a lot of like this horror that is coming as in this collapsing neoliberal age. In terms of the massive unhoused communities, the massive cost of living and housing increase, and the huge social problems that come along with that. Toronto as well, yeah. And John, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Thank you so much, John McCain's Ghost as well. Just wanted to say your interviews are always great. Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. They did something like this in Toronto at the NDP in my riding. There's some, I think, Somali women who had big grassroots movement to win the federal nomination. They just up and said all the immigrants she'd signed up for the candidate contest were invalid because they said so.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Very, very good stuff.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Canada's answer to all this, eugenics. That's right. That's the thing. If we're not just funding more police officers to deal with these big social problems, like in unhoused communities with drug use and with all these things that have direct causes that are directly linked to people's economic conditions and their material conditions, if we're not just endlessly funding police departments to deal with these things, don't worry. There's another option if you don't want to interact with the police, which is to just like have state-sanctioned suicide. How about that? That's the other option that people are being presented with. Tyler Madsen, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Thank you. Yeah, the federal Green Party debacle from a couple of years ago. There was the leadership race there, right, where there was a lot of controversy around that, which we covered on this stream. And like Kai is saying, there's something very fucking dark and grim on the horizon. And I know if you watch this show, I think you're sort of aware of this feeling, this sense of doom. But I really think more people need to be paying attention to this. And like we were saying, BC is just a great example of this. The real this kind of real mask slippage that is going on with our enlightened liberal democracy. Come here for the doom. There we go. The major parties are bought and paid for. It's true. You know, kind of depressing, but it's nevertheless important to talk about. Nevertheless, it's important to talk about. So yeah, I'm happy we could do that. I'm happy we could focus on this a little bit today. With democracy like this, who needs dictatorship? Well, that's the thing. It's like, that's why I personally have started to, and I know for some reason on the left in this country, this still remains kind of controversial, but that's exactly why I'm very skeptical about all our lectures about democracy to countries like China or countries like Cuba. It certainly does seem like when you have one socialist party that can actually like do, you know, like I was saying yesterday, can actually do stuff. You know, I know for liberals and these kind of establishment political types, doing things is somehow inherently wrong or undemocratic, but it certainly seems like kind of the way to go, right? And this bourgeois liberal democracy seems just seems like a fucking dead end. It just seems like a total dead end in terms of actually confronting any of these crises. You know, China's well aware of the coming climate crisis, and they're engaging with that. They're building infrastructure that can help confront that in the future, regardless of how profitable it is. They're transitioning into new energy and a new energy economy and determined to be a global leader in these new energy systems. You know, they're just doing that. And like here in the West, while we're busy wagging our finger at them for being so authoritarian, we're just like being caught completely with our pants down as all these crises just continue to just envelop our whole culture, our whole society. You sound like someone who'd be fine with just many no bueno situations. That's right, James. That is right. Hello, Brandon. What's up? I don't know. I think we should try entryism. It'll work this time, I swear. And that's the thing. It's like I respect Kai for saying he's going to stay in the party and continue to organize, but it's just I'm personally becoming very, very cynical about either, you know, getting the Labour Party or the Democratic Party or the NDP to be good and to start having good values instead of bad values. And if we just run in this leadership campaign, like people have come close. Corbyn came close. Bernie came close. Like Corbyn was actually the leader of the party. But, you know, it just seems like just time and time again, it's the same story that plays out. And as the lesson is with Corbyn, as I think it should be here, if that strategy is ever going to work, and I'm very cynical about it. I'm very cynical about this kind of entryism ever actually being meaningful. But it's going to have to be a genuine hostile takeover. There's going to have to be actual like purges. Like these people are not playing nice. The establishments in these party, in the NDP, in the Labour Party, in the Democratic Party, they're not, you know, our friends. They're not interested in democracy. They have to be taken on, like head on, without any apology, without any pulled punches. Like they have to be fucking destroyed and annihilated. And that's if this kind of entryist project is ever going to work. And I still don't even have a lot of confidence that it will. I hate when I actually accidentally elect a dictator. The dictator does what most people want them to do. That's undemocratic. That's authoritarian when that happens, as we know. No, of course, Brandon, I would never advocate for anything like that. Obviously, I would never do that. But it's like these people do need to be fought. Like, and, you know, like I said, with Angelia Paterai, she was like, Angelia Paterai was being like accused of like, you're doing a hostile takeover of the party. The only way any of these projects is ever going to work is with a hostile takeover. It just seems to be, the writing on the wall here. You know, no punches pulled. That's right. This is one of the biggest lessons of the last couple of years because it also happened to the Greens, the Democrats, and British Labour. Parties beholden to capital will always happily risk damage and defeat to crush their left wing and tail the right. It do seem to be like that. It really does. It does seem to be like that. I think there should be like there's no law in Canada that says we can't start a new party. You know, that's one thing too. It's like the obsession with the NDP. I don't think like we can just abandon the NDP. I mean, I've heard this argument explained to me many times by people that are passionate about this kind of NDP entryism, people that I respect a lot, like Martin Lukács, for example, who started the Breach, who have explained how the NDP is just the best vehicle for this kind of change. But it's just like after a certain point, there's no law that says we can't just start a new party where we don't have to engage in this bullshit game trying to overthrow this entrenched establishment of like consultants and people beholden to the oil and gas industry and these big corporations. There's no law that says that we can't do that. We can't just start a new party. We do not have to focus on the NDP. We don't have to focus on the Labour Party. I understand why it's more difficult in the United States with the two-party system and everything like that. But in Canada, just focusing on Canada, like there's no law that says we can't just start a new party, And there's as Angelia Paterai's campaign showed, there's tons of excitement. If people feel like there's an actual alternative, a socialist alternative, a radical climate alternative, people get excited. Like there's young people around the country that are excited to join a party like that. They're excited to get involved in the democratic process. There's hundreds of thousands of people around the country that would be thrilled to have that opportunity. And just, I don't know how many times we have to keep banging our heads against this wall of entryism in the NDP or any of these other parties before we just kind of get the fucking message. They don't want us. They do not want us. They don't want us in the party. They don't want us organizing in the party. They don't want us joining. They don't even want our money. They don't even want to win. They would rather lose than have us just join the party and win. The NDP lose while deeply compromising their basis principles. I'd rather lose for something I believed in. There's no reason why we can't just start a new party. They don't want us. We have to just accept this. It's kind of embarrassing after a certain point. It's like you're asking someone out and they're saying, no, I'm not interested in you. And rather than just moving on with your life and saying like, well, I guess I'll just find someone else. It's like repeatedly going back time and time again. What about now? I went out, I got a job. I'm improving myself. Will you accept me now, please? And they're like, no. Like if after a certain point, you're just humiliating yourself, It is embarrassing. It is. The knife party. That could be something fun. If you like talking about this, come to book club tonight where we're talking about left-wing communism and infantile disorder. And I would encourage people to do that. Red Scary runs the Socialist Book Club in the Discord server and does a wonderful job. I would encourage people, if you're not in the Discord server, to join that. Make sure you appear, you join that that discussion. We love to have your vote. That's right. There's no law that says you can't threaten people with knives until they vote for you. Someone's like, actually, that is a law. It, in fact, is a law. You can't just threaten people with knives until they support you politically. That's actually not legal at all. But still, right? But still. Let me just see. I'm quite thirsty. I just wanted to get some kind of beverage situation going. Nothing new here. I can watch another CBC thing, or I do it all for the community. Well, that's where the true MVP. Red Scary. Pink Diamond or no? But supposing you founded a left-wing party and it took power, you have to ask, what does capital do to you then? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves. What are we prepared to do? What are we prepared to do? They're prepared to fight dirty. It can't. Let's just say that I don't think it can be like a when they go low, we go high situation. And I mean, you might even say, deliberately destroying the planet, destroying millions of people's lives through these regressive policies, social murder. When Kai's talking about people just burning alive in their fucking homes, or dying of heat stroke in their homes, or dying on the streets. That's what Engels called social murder, isn't it? And you could argue, especially when you're talking about the future of the planet and the destruction of our biosphere, you could argue that that's a pretty serious crime. Especially when there's collusion between the political class and the capitalist class. That's a crime. That's called corruption. And, hypothetically, I kind of think that if you believe this kind of corruption is a serious crime, well, I think that there should be consequence. I actually also believe in crime and punishment. I also believe in law and order. And frankly, I think that there should be consequences for people that commit these kind of very serious crimes of corruption, of environmental destruction, of committing social murder of hundreds or thousands of millions of people. I think there should be consequences for people that commit these kinds of crimes, personally. What are those consequences? Well, I don't know. We don't need to speculate on that right now. But, we can be the law and order party as well, right? I also believe in law and order. I also believe in crime and punishment. I would just rather people punish the people that are committing the really serious crimes, not the people committing petty crimes to survive, not the people that have been funneled into this like horrific, desperate situation because of, housing costs, because of the lack of social spending, the lack of resources for people with addiction. I don't think, I know there's crime that happens in those communities, but I think we should focus more on the major, serious crimes. The social murder of thousands of people, the destruction of the biosphere, corruption and collusion with the capitalist class and the political class. And I think there should be consequences for people that commit those crimes. Anyway. What do I know, though, right? What do I know? Here's Angelia Potterey's whole response to the debacle. I don't know if we need to read all that. Just give me one moment, okay? I'm just gonna go get my this Rob guy has some good ideas. But the news tells you to be upset about the fare evasion on the other side of the country. That is right. That's correct. There's also that as well. Rob, look at this U.S. trade representative basically saying that China's cheating by the government actually making things happen instead of leaving everything up to the private, stateless, capitalist sector. Let me just grab that YouTube video, James. We don't need to look at that. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to get a beverage, folks. I'll be right back. Little bit of the bubbly. That's right. That's right, Starlight. That's what we're doing. I have iced tea. That's good. Nice. Well, chin chin, everybody. Let me know what beverage you're working on right now. You got water, you got a bubbly, you got a coffee, tea, you got a diet soda, you got an energy drink. Let me hear from you. What do you got going? What's the best flavor of bubbly? I have right now in my fridge, I have this orange flavor and I have the cherry, and both of them are very good, honestly. I don't even know which I prefer. I guess I prefer the orange because that's the one that I finished sooner. Very refreshing. Very, very refreshing. Time to go pull myself an oat milk latte. That sounds nice. Sean's got some water. Eric's got a cappuccino from the coffee shop behind my house, and it's wonderful. Vanilla chai tea. A JJ bean coffee. We got some good beverages here. Just had a green tea with honey, real honey from a bee's ass. All right. Young Parenti. Very nice. I'm drinking the Polish energy drink called Black Energy, which was originally advertised by Mike Tyson. Well, that's cool. This group really does enjoy beverages, Eric. It's kind of a centerpiece of our whole ideology. I don't think the honey comes from the ass. I thought they threw it up. They don't shit the honey, they puke it. Well, either or. Either or. And I will give you my concern, though, folks. Want to know my concern? Because I think sometimes about, having a new party in this country. I know there's a lot of people that are passionate about entryism in the NDP. There's a lot of people that are passionate for a new party. I'll give you my concern, though, is that there's never really going to be a coherent left movement in this country because it's going to be divided by these foreign policy issues, which we're seeing a lot, I think, as we engage in this kind of new Cold War situation, the hostility towards China, the whole Ukraine and Russia situation. The left is always going to be divided on these issues. And frankly, there's an anti-imperialist left that wants to support China, that wants to at least talk about both sides of the Ukraine and Russia conflict and talk about Canada's role in it. And there's people that are kind of have these designs on taking over these big parties that really have a kind of compatible left, frankly, viewpoint about these foreign policy issues. And this is why, as much as I think that this country would benefit from an actual left-wing party that could kind of unify people, I think that's going to be a really difficult obstacle to overcome. I've seen it already, and I've seen it in terms of the actual people that are involved in some of this NDP entryism who have who I've clashed with over this kind of thing. We can't overcome it if we don't try to build it. Well, that's a good point as well. That is a good point as well. But that is definitely a concern of mine. Kautsky lives in the ideology of the Western left. It is true. And Trotsky, yeah. Hardcore Trotskyites. And that is a problem. That is a problem. I think there's too many people that are just unwilling or unable to take forceful foreign policy stances against where the establishment is. People have been, people with really good progressive values have been pulled into supporting Western imperialism in Syria. They've been pulled into supporting it in Libya. They're pulled into supporting it in Ukraine. They're pulled into supporting it with China, and it just seems to happen time and time again. This is one of the things that as you know, I rail about often on this program that I find very frustrating, and that I think is going to be one big impediment on creating a sort of unified left-wing party, is the fact that so many people, even if they have these progressive values about the climate or about housing or about any of these things, and I know there's people that have great values on these things, defunding the police, the opioid crisis, the crisis in indigenous communities, the climate crisis. There's people that have really great values on this who time and time again end up siding with the establishment and siding with Western imperialism in these regime change efforts that are just so easily manipulated by this kind of like NGO approved human rights trauma porn. And just time and time again, all these people that have really wonderful values when it comes to these social issues end up taking these what I view as really reactionary foreign policy stances, and are just afraid or unwilling or unable to stand up to the establishment. They can do it when it comes to these domestic social issues, but they just can't seem to find it within themselves to take these stances about foreign policy because they're so concerned with being called tankies or authoritarians or dictator supporting or whatever it is. People are so paralyzed with doubt and indecision about supporting these countries that are victims of Western hostility and aggressions and sanctions. They shit the bed when it comes to the question of imperialism. This is the thing that fundamentally just divides these movements, because they have no dialectical and historical materialism, because they've been taught to reject these values. They've been taught to never read about this, because the people that wrote about dialectical and historical materialism are themselves authoritarian and whatever else they say. This is a big problem, right? And this is the thing that I find is going to be a big concern when it comes to having some kind of a cohesive left movement in this country, or any country in the West, really. There's no separating domestic and foreign policy. Rebuilding local production in the West includes dismantling Western imperialism in the Third World. To imagine you can talk about one without the other is nonsense. I agree. And this, to me, seems like a really big obstacle in terms of creating a kind of unified front. And as we've been talking about with this Ukraine thing, they're just, because of the inability for anyone on the sort of social democratic side of politics in this country to take these forceful stances, it leaves this door wide open to the right, which they're happily using to organize around. People like Maxime Bernier, people like Tucker Carlson, all these really reactionary types. This ground is being ceded to like right-wingers, to these like LaRoucheite cultists, and all these weird freaks, because people on the left are so paralyzed to take a forceful stance on this, and it just leaves this opportunity for the right to organize around. So I don't know. I don't see that. That's something that, regardless of even a lot of the people that I'm talking about here, I agree with about a lot. I don't want to pivot to talking about my own personal stuff, but as you know, folks, I've had ties with some of these more mainstream progressive media outlets, along with people that I respect a whole lot and that I like a whole lot. But the reason that I don't work with these organizations anymore is because of this, is because I take unpopular foreign policy stances that scare the higher ups that are involved in these organizations. It's not a beef, not talking about a beef whatsoever. But it's true. I'm sorry. And I feel like this is just going to continue to be a problem. Oh, no beef. We got no beef. No beef zone happening. Hey, Marcus, what's up? Marcus, we got to play Fortnite again. I've been seeing you logged on. I've logged on. I've seen you playing a couple times, Marcus. We got to get that going again. Have you ever had a beef-filled day? No, not at all. Not at all. I'm doing important journalism. I'm doing some important exclusive journalism over here. Do you do gaming streams? I mean, I want to, and I should. It doesn't seem that's what the community doesn't want, though. The community hates the gaming streams. Anyway, I got too much. There's other stuff to talk about. We can talk about the UK. UK in disarray. Yeah, they were talking about Liz Truss. Yeah, Cult of the Lamb. I've been meaning to play. Soma. I bought Soma and downloaded it so I could play a spoopy Halloween game. I have not done that. Can we see the lettuce stream? Oh, man. I've heard Soma is great. It looks awesome. I've just really not had an opportunity to do it. The only good horror game to ever exist. Wow, that's a big endorsement. Ringing endorsement. Let me see if I can find it, because there's a really good thing about the lettuce. I don't know where the actual stream is. I don't come in here to talk about things beside geese, but Soma is a life-changingly great game. Wow, some really big, some ringing endorsements here. I guess I have to play it now. I still got another week left of the spoopy month. There's the lettuce cam there. They did it. I'm trying to find a very funny post that I saw about this that I don't think I saved. Let's see here. No, I got nothing. You'll have to trust me that this post I was talking about was funny. It was the lettuce, but a variation of the Assad curse. Yeah, here's the image. Thank you. There was an Assad curse themed lettuce Liz Truss meme. which was quite funny. We can get to this Liz Truss thing. I think I need like a few minutes to like do chit chat or whatever. Right? This is too we're going too quick here. We're moving too fast. Incredible things are happening in the UK. The absolute funniest outcome will be if Boris comes back. If Boris comes back and wins apparently going to stand for the leadership race in the UK. That's a fucking hilarious outcome. One thing you aren't absolutely terrible about is self-deprecating humor. That's true, yeah. That's very true. That was a great conversation with Kai earlier. By the way, a big opening night win for the Toronto Raptors last night. That was fun. I was pretty excited by that. Allow me just to do a little scroll here. Just scrolling for some stuff. Scrolling. I can't stop thinking about how submarining the BC NDP would send a message to the other bad NDP parties in this country. I mean, it's the problem is that the people that like run these parties just don't seem to feel any sense of shame or remorse. That's one big issue, isn't it? Like, I don't think there's anything you can do to make them be like, oh, we really messed this one up. You have to have that part of your brain just surgically removed. Okay, now it seems like we're just transitioning into the UK. I guess we should just do it. What am I doing? This is a pathetic attempt at doing a chat. I feel off my game when we don't do the 30, 45 minutes of chit chat about wrestling and sports and beverages and stuff. Now Sam has a good point here. What time is it even? Free scrolling. Just watch the video snippet I sent you. Well, James, I got a lot of China content on the backlog that I would like to look at, but I think I think that's what I might do. I might do one of the classic TRRS New Cold War segments tomorrow to talk more about China and stuff. Just bring up one of our controversial food topics. I mean, I was like milk cook. I was telling Kai about the sandwich that I've been making lately, the spicy egg boy, which I've had each day this week. It has been very good. I think I already gave the recipe, but in case you weren't there for that, you got a toasted ciabatta bun. Okay, I toast that like in the pan with some butter. Okay, and I got the egg. Lately, I've been. Yeah, Sam. Actually, I wanted to watch that socialist program thing too. I think tomorrow that's what we're gonna focus on. So you got the ciabatta bun with some butter in the pan. You got the egg. Lately, I've been putting some cheese in the pan. I melt some cheese in the pan, so it's got that kind of like gooey, melty, kind of crispy kind of situation happening. That's right, I do put cheese. Mozzarella. Just some plain grocery store mozzarella. I put a couple slices of that in the pan to get it all melty. Then I put the egg and the melty gooey cheese on the bun, which has been like toasted in the butter, and with some mayo on there. I've got this like the Olbeck spicy chili sauce, which I think is from Thailand. Put in some of that and some hot peppers on there. Those little pepperoncinis. And it's really good, and it leaks the yolk everywhere, and then you use the bun to sop up the yolk as well. Sambal Olek, there we go, Metal Dipshit, thank you. That's what it is. Thank you, Metal Dipshit. Very good sandwich, folks. The Spicy Egg Boy. This sounds incredibly heart healthy. My heart is in perfect condition, Johnny. Perfect condition. In general, I'm in great physical condition, so I'm okay to be eating this kind of stuff. You wash it down to the can of White Claw? No, because I don't drink at like 10 a.m. in the morning, which is when I've been eating these, or so. I'm almost too healthy. I went to the doctor. They were like, you're too healthy. You gotta do something about this. You gotta start eating more cholesterol. You gotta exercise less. A little bit less. They're like, we've never seen anything like this. You're making all our other patients feel bad. So you gotta try and tone it down. I was going to Trump's doctor. That's right. You have so much of the good cholesterol. That's right. Leave some for the rest of us. Rob's is so strong it can pump weaker, smaller hearts through his vascular system, which is a health risk in itself. That's right. That is absolutely correct. You gotta stay safe out there, folks. Drink more wine, be Keith Floyd, cook, enjoy. There we go. As part of your physical, did they ask you to fight a goose? No, because they knew that it would be unfair. It would be unfair, and it would be just promoting animal cruelty for them to ask me to do this. Because they all know what would happen. They all know what would happen, didn't they? I haven't had a McRib in forever. Neither have I. When I've had it, I've never really enjoyed it. And I'm a big McDonald's head. I like McDonald's. I ate McDonald's yesterday, actually. I ate McDonald's. I had a BLT quarter pounder. Just yesterday. A Canada Goose weighs between 5.7 and 14.3 pounds. Ooh. Oh, no. Terrifying. A terrifying creature. I would never eat a McRib. I live in a barbecue mecca, and it's an affront to me. Yeah, that makes sense. Where are you located, Matt? Could Rob stand against incoming BC Premier David Eby in a round of one-on-one basketball? Eby has a significant height and reach advantage. 6'6". Wow, okay. So he's pretty big. I would need to rely on my outside shooting. I'm in KC. Okay, interesting. I'm gonna have to come down and visit you sometime, Matt. I'll be the judge of this. He's tall but gangly. I think Rob could cross him over. That's the thing. If you can get him to respect the outside shot, then you can get the first step to the basket. That's the key. I don't think I would want to post him up. You know, that would be an accident waiting to happen. I really need to play again. I've been saying this for months. And I'm still not doing it. Submitted video proof the Canada geese pose no threat. What channel are we talking here? What channel are we talking? Hoop stream went. I would love to do a hoop stream. The answer is that the fracking and logging concerns would install a referee to throw the game to Eevee. God damn it. Ugh. McRib tastes like mummified fast food. Please stop. I don't know that I've ever had it. One-on-one hoop stream against Ennis Freedom. I make fun of Ennis, but he is a former professional basketball player. Ennis would fucking cook me. Even though he was not a good NBA player by any stretch, I have no doubts that Ennis would absolutely cook me in a one-on-one. I would not put myself in that position. Yes, you did miss the interview, Old Dutch, because it was early. Kai was only available at like 12:30, so you can catch the VOD though. I'll make sure to highlight that. It was a really good talk. It was a really good conversation. Yeah, I guess this was really half-hearted chit-chat, wasn't it? It was really half-hearted. I still did kind of want to watch the wrestling segment I was talking about yesterday with MJF and William Regal. That was really good. I don't know, now it seems kind of forced, though. Maybe I should just move on to this UK business. Is MJF still healing it up at GOAT levels? Well, Sam, he seems to be kind of transitioning to a kind of in between. Like there's that kind of situation with back in the day with The Rock, where they're still technically a heel, but the fans really want to cheer for them. And it's like they're really ready to embrace him, but that could also mean a bigger heel turn coming. But he had this amazing segment with William Regal the other day. I kind of think Canada is secretly evil in a propaganda state, following up with your program today. It does kind of seem like that, doesn't it? Regal is never forced, just like the white supremacy is the only the world as it should be. I don't totally get the analogy, but I'm going to go ahead and agree. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to take a moment here to look at this segment just as a palate cleanser. This segment with MJF and William Regal. One of the best wrestling segments that I've seen for a while. I really enjoyed the Sami Zayn Bloodline thing the other day, but this was kind of working on a whole different level. This is an example of, I think, a segment that I would show to a non-wrestling fan to show them like how fucking great it can be. Blurring the lines between the fiction and the reality. a really, really great young performer and a cagey veteran, just completely operating on this extremely high level. Really good stuff. This segment with MJF and William Regal from AEW Dynamite. I'm going to put that on. We're going to look at this. Okay? Then I will move on to talking about serious political issues again. Okay? But I saw this. It is just so fucking great. MJF in this segment is so good. And just, it's an amazing example because MJF gives this incredible promo, gets the crowd entirely on his side. They're ready to boo Regal out of the building. And then Regal is just so great that he manages to flip things back over again. It's really stunning. Really, really good stuff. Anyway, I love that segment. Really, really, MJF is really the sky's the limit for this guy. He just old manned him. He did, yeah. That was like the wrestling equivalent of the old guy in the gym at the pickup game. And you'll think, who's this fucking guy? With the big socks and the short shorts. And they pull out all these, they're all bony. And they pull out all these fucked up, like, low post moves. Just cook everybody. That's kind of what just happened. The crowd likes this talking part. Exactly. And the real pros, like MJF, are able to capture people's attention and capture people's imagination. Anyway, I really loved that promo. I loved the passion from MJF, and I really loved how Regal was able to take that situation and completely turn it on its head and tell his own story and the struggles that he had to go through in the good old days of wrestling when you would just get smashed in the head repeatedly until you had multiple concussions and ended up, you know where I'm going with that. The talking is way more interesting than the fighting. Well, that's when it comes together, is when this story manages to be told that gets you invested in seeing the culminating wrestling match. And it's when these things kind of work together. I always think about wrestling kind of like working on 3 levels of storytelling at the same time. You have the story that's being told in the ring, the story of like the wrestling match that's being told, the story that's outside of the ring, in terms of the actual characters and what their motivations are and what they want to do and what they care about, and why they don't like each other, why they're wrestling. So you have those 2 levels of storytelling, and then when you peel back the layer, there's the story of the real person that's playing these characters and what their motivations are and what they're trying to do. I find that very interesting. It is interesting, Sin Chow. I think you made a mistake there, and there's kind of a typo. I know you think it's really interesting. Anyway, thank you for indulging me, folks. Thank you for indulging me. Yeah, it is dangerous. Yeah, I talked about Hangman Adam Page yesterday, Nedlocked, and I'm happy to hear that he's okay. Getting concussions in wrestling is bad, but at least, Hangman's not like seriously injured, serious neck injury or anything like that. That was like kind of looking like what it may have been. Happy to hear Hangman is okay. Thank you for indulging me. I do like, I got started in terms of like building an online platform, being a wrestling journalist. And I'm happy to still sometimes do this kind of like commentary. I enjoy doing this every now and then. When I see something that I really feel like I need to share with you, it's not always, doesn't always happen, but when I see something that I really feel like I need to share with you like that, and then I got to do it. Yeah, Kath Barbadar did a whole podcast trying to explain why leftists like wrestling. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It was fun watching her journey, which was kind of documented through the podcast. Yeah, I think he got a concussion, which is serious, obviously, but it was looking for a moment like he may have like broken his neck or done something really terrible. So I was happy to hear that it wasn't that. Anyway, we don't need to continue talking about professional wrestling. I've taken my little time. Wrestling journal, but never for female wrestlers. Curious. Well, if I was doing a dedicated wrestling show, I'd talk more about female wrestling as well. which has really had an explosion in popularity. I know our friend of the stream, Lana, is very passionate about Joshi wrestling, and I'm sure she could educate all us on this as well. Yes, Iron. Yes. Yeah, that's Lana's like specialty. But also the fact is I'm not going to cover that on the show because I don't support women. So that's really as simple as it could be boiled down to. Anyway, I guess now if I was a serious drunk, I would spell my comments betterer. My apologies. Oh, that's no problem. Red wine terroirist. No problem. No problem at all. You heard nothing, okay? You heard nothing, folks. I guess now we can talk about the chaos unfolding in the UK. That's enough of a palate cleanser. There are like 10 of those clips already. You know, just throw them on the pile. Just throw it on the pile. Those were all taken out of context, by the way. Remember when he said women have brains like pancakes? I don't have any recollection of that at all, actually. Fake news. Big time fake news over here. Very unfortunate that people in the community are engaging in that kind of disinformatia. Are they being paid by Russia? Putin? I think possibly. We can't prove it. I have my suspicions about some of you, though. I have my suspicions. Let's just say that much. I'm pretty surprised to hear the opinions about women. As someone who knows several women, I'm pretty shocked. Big Shiny Takes Eric has binders full of women. I know Big Shiny Takes Institute has been anxious to bring on a woman host, or possibly have a woman, involved in the think tank. They're taking their time. They're taking the time. They just want to find the right one. That's the. It's not that they don't want to. That's the thing. It's not that they don't want to. It's just about finding the right fit. I know sometimes that takes weeks or months or even years in that case. But it's like you want to make the right decision. And Eric's been going over his binders full of women, decades even, to just find the right fit. Any day now. And the Big Shiny Takes Institute is going to become more inclusive. The EST Institute for Pickup Artistry. I know that's why I engage with the content from the Big Shiny Takes Institute. Personally, I want to be informed on that kind of thing. Anyway, we have several PUA and magicians on staff. Eric's always talking about peacocking. Anytime Eric and we're always shooting the shit. You know, I just give Eric a call at night, see how he's doing. Just kind of like in bed with the phone cord, just like twisting that around. He's always telling me to get one of those big hats. Those big furry hats. Exactly. The top hats. Yeah. He's always encouraging me to do this. Oh, geez. I'm considering. I am considering it. I am. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. Just negging each other now. That's right. It's like a scene in Lord of the Rings with Gandalf and Sauron just like throwing themselves around like with the staffs. Speaking of women, what's going on in the UK? Speaking of women who are not able to handle the pressures. No, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I'm not going to go down that path as a joke, even as a joke. I'm not even going to go down that path, even as a joke. But we can talk about Liz Truss's historic, disastrous tenure as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, coming to an end today after 44 days. 44 days this took. My clip it and ship it finger was at the ready. I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it. So let's see what kind of content we can take a look at here. Really prepared for this. Here was Liz this morning. Well, so we should see first. We should look at in the House of Commons. Just yesterday, she was saying, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. I probably should have saved some of these. Okay, here we go. I'm ready now.
Being very clear. Mr. Speaker, I have been very clear that I am...
A book is being written about the Prime Minister's time in office. Apparently it's going to be out by Christmas. Is that the release date or the title? She's asking me questions because we're a government in waiting and they're an opposition in waiting.
You're making Keir Starmer look cool. That's a big bad sign.
Gone. 20p tax cut, gone. 2-year energy freeze.
We're adding Truss as the third mic. Very true.
Gone. Economic credibility, gone.
Keir Starmer is a white man. Absolutely correct. Yep.
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter. I have acted in the national interest to make sure that we have economic stability.
Prime Minister. Order. Order. I'm going to hear the Prime Minister. I suggest that all members need to hear the answer. Prime Minister.
Listen, as much as Britain is like a cursed country as well, I do think we need more of this. I would like to see more of this in like America and American politics. I think when politicians are talking, we should encourage more people to say, oh. I like that. We have a little bit of that in Canada, but it's nowhere near as cool. Like these people are just they've been there's a little bit more alcohol mixed into the whole mix, I think, as well. I'm a woman and a feminist. I didn't think Liz Truss should put her head in a pumpkin and leave it there. This is one thing. You don't have to hand it to the UK all the time, but I think you should, at least in this one case. You got to hand it to them. Keir Starmer is the worst of all white men, except white men like him. Unfortunately, there are hundreds, if not thousands more waiting in the wings. And we're going to get to this as well, because it's like I've talked about my skepticism about the Labour Party's strategy of purging the left and not really just ditching their whole whatever remains of their progressive platform or socialist platform and just hoping that the Tory chaos propels them to power. I've been talking about my skepticism about that. Now it seems like this strategy might actually work. And like they actually might win the next election, which would be shocking. But that's the same thing where it's like, well, at what cost then? The Labour Party might indeed form the next government, but are they going to actually respond to any of the various crises that are engulfing the UK when they're just reverting back to this kind of Blairite, centrist, establishment-friendly politics? So yeah, great. This strategy might win. This strategy of just like ditching any hope of being a left-wing party and hoping that the Tories just fuck up so badly that they just win by default. That strategy may actually work, but what is that going to actually result in when they actually form the next government? Are they going to do anything to confront any of these crises? Well, no, they're not, because they've made sure to like any like serious effort to attack any of these crises, like we saw with the BC NDP. They've completely rejected all of this, and they'll form the government, which would be great for like the actual like people in their positions in the party and their positions in the government. Will it actually be meaningful for like any of the people that are affected in the country by all these various crises? Most likely, no, it will not.
Mr. Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
This is what I'm going to start doing when Jordan talks on the podcast. Whenever Jordan says anything, I'm just going to start going, "Ew, ew." I think it's an effective strategy when someone says something that you don't like. There's no point in winning if the things that are done after you win are ineffective. This is the problem too with people that have taken their whole identities to be like Democrats or Labour Party members that only care about winning and say like we can never be like a left wing or progressive party, then we won't win. And that they're like winning is like the be all and end all for them. And it's like actually changing society for the better has been completely abandoned. The idea that this is possible. Hockey is better than basketball. Just like red nose. I'm going to drink a bunch of G&Ts beforehand. And that's a stance that I should agree with. But this is how backwards things have gotten. This is how fucked up the discourse is. Where now Jordan's advocating for hockey, and I'm sitting there going, "Ooh." Anyway.
Just sit down. Sit. Can I just say, he's obviously the more popular choice. Come on, James Grundy. You've got a future.
So what did she say? That's one more time.
Speaker, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
And less than 24 hours later.
I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party.
Sorry, who's been in power for the last 12 years, is it? I love this. They talk about all the various crises that are happening, all the low economic growth and everything. Who's the party that has been in power this entire time? I can't remember. Someone remind me. It's all a mystery. It's a big mystery how this is happening.
With a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy.
Oh my God, pathogen. Spicy. Dominated by a whole country at once. Bet she's lucking it, actually. That's the whole, that's a fun conspiracy, isn't it? The whole Liz Truss BDSM thing. That's a thing. Did you hear about this? Have you heard about this? That necklace. The mysterious necklace. The mysterious BDSM necklace.
that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit.
I'm not making this
I
up.
recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Yep.
Truss, Liz Truss has resigned.
Get me out of here. As a masochist, she got kind of had the best run of PM imaginable. Explain the necklace. Cut it. Is that something I need to go into? Is that really something I need to go into? I saw a whole thread on it. And despite all the controversy, it hasn't taken off this necklace. Is it a necklace or is it a day collar? That's the question. That's the question. Let's investigate this, okay? There's a peculiar but fascinating online conspiracy doing the rounds. I think you all need to hear about it. The Kink Conspiracy believe that Liz Truss, now former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, is a 24/7 submissive, and it's all down to one seemingly nondescript detail, her necklace. She owns at least 2 O-ring necklaces. The stranger rumor comes from the BDSM community, clocking that Liz Truss is pretty much never seen without her O-ring necklace. If you Google image search her or watch her interviews, they're right. The necklace is a constant. In the kink community, most people either fall into the categories of dominant or submissive. Submissives frequently wear collars, both when they're doms, with their doms, and in day-to-day lives, because it would be incredibly noticeable and perhaps slightly inappropriate if Liz Truss went about her prime ministerial duties in a leather collar. The online conspiracy of the kink community alleged that Liz Truss's O-ring necklace is actually a day collar, a kink necklace worn by subs that more subtly lets subs express their kink in public. Do we want to continue going down this path? Do we want to continue going down this path? There's been a lot of research on this. I saw a whole thread on it. The Telegraph running defense. That one's kind of interesting. Now I want to stick my own head in a pumpkin so that I can't hear any of this because of all the pulp in my ears. Salute to the lettuce, absolutely. The lettuce got the job done. The lettuce got Brexit done. I don't know if I want to continue exploring this. It's kind of disturbing. There's a lot of speculation about it, though. People have been asking about this. I'm scrolling through some fucked up shit right now, folks. You don't even want to know. You don't even want to know what I'm looking at right now. Horrible. Just vile, vile stuff. Of course, there's nothing wrong with BDSM. Mostly, it's just funny to see on someone so prominent. Absolutely. This honestly continues in the tradition of accusing someone of being secretly kind of cool. I guess, yeah, it's just funny when you think of like British Tories. As I was going to say that there's like a, you think of them as being completely like sexless automatons, but there's actually a long tradition of completely fucked up, perverse shit as well that has gone along with that. Squishy tankies can't handle the girl boss truths. I'm talking about, Thatcher's connection to or the British Tories connection in the 80s to like, these like figures like what's his fucking name? The creepy. This segment has really gone off the rails, hasn't it? There's some other interesting evidence, though, right? Jimmy Savile, the Tories in the 80s, Tories and sex scandals, the tales that hold the time. That's right. I should never have gone down this. I instantly regret going down this path. I instantly regret going down this path. I should have never gone down this path. Anyway, we can look at more content about this. I should have listened to Red Scary on this. I don't know. I'm not sure what I was thinking. This is a good tweet about this, though. I'll stop kink shaming Liz Truss now. Because listen, you got to hand it to her, right? You have to hand it to her. Liz Truss, presiding over the deaths of the Queen, the Pound, and the Conservative Party. The sort of record thousands of would-be revolutionaries spent their entire lives hoping to achieve and got nowhere near, and she pulled it off in a mere 6 weeks. Unsurpassable legacy. Like, we should all be thanking this woman. She did a wonderful job. Efficient. That's right. Are they bringing back Boris? I mean, my understanding that Boris is planning on standing in this leadership campaign, which is just hilarious. That would be such a funny outcome. And frankly, I think if they wanted to not lose to Keir Starmer, Boris is probably the one that's going to avoid that outcome, I feel like. I'm told that Boris Johnson is expected to stand in the Tory leadership contest. He's taking soundings, but is said to believe it is a matter of national interest. I believe it's possibly another kink as well, yeah. Is he on holiday right now? Boris is never fully on holiday. He's always thinking, always scheming. He's always one step ahead. Is he on holiday? That's just what he wants you to think. Okay? He's probably orchestrating all this from the shadows. He speaks a dozen languages, knows every local custom. Thank you, Carrier Wave. He's never not on holiday. He's on a holiday vibe. That's true. Yeah. That is true. He's on a beach in Crimea.
Right, and you're talking about the messages that you're getting, and as I understand it, the Daily Star, one of the tabloids said, will Liz Truss outlast a lettuce? Because of a turn of phrase that someone else used that, she's roughly got the shelf life of a lettuce. There we have it. It looks like, Danielle, the lettuce outlasted the Prime Minister.
It did. It did. It has been making the rounds on social media.
This is a normal country where everything's going great.
Really. Liz Truss was somebody who said that she wasn't scared of doing unpopular things. But she did unpopular things, and she's had to pull U-turns. I mean, she is now the shortest serving prime minister in British history. The previous record holder was in power for 119 days. That was back in 1827. Of course, he had to go because he died. The only thing that's dead here is her credibility, Marcia.
All right, Danielle Hamamjian. I'm glad we got rid of that lettuce shot because I was about to laugh, and I know I shouldn't. Danielle, thanks for all that and for walking us through it.
I don't know if anyone saw this clip. This clip is fucking great too. This is a man that understood the assignment.
Of astonishing scenes at Westminster with reports of jostling, manhandling, bullying and shouting outside the parliamentary lobbies in a supposed vote of confidence in the government. The Deputy Chief Whip was reported to have left the scene saying, "I'm absolutely effing furious. I just don't effing care anymore," before he resigned, along with the Chief Whip. But we've just been told they have now officially unresigned. The Home Secretary has, however, definitely gone. In short, it is total, absolute, abject chaos.
I'm absolutely effing furious. This one too, we got another one. Thanks Twitter for just like having my DMs just pop up. By the way, I have a very exciting update for you folks, which I can share with you in a couple moments, okay? Here's German TV. No need to understand German, watch to the end.
Woraufhin dann der stellvertretende Fraktionschef das Parlament mit den Worten verließ, "I'm fucking furious and I don't fucking care anymore." Ich übersetze das jetzt mal nicht, aber das ist eine Partei, wo wirklich woraufhin dann der stellvertretende Fraktionschef das Parlament mit den Worten verließ, "I'm fucking furious and I don't fucking care anymore." Ich übersetze das jetzt mal nicht, aber das ist eine Partei, wo wirklich woraufhin dann der stellvertretende Fraktionschef
That's good.
Furious. Fucking furious.
Here's me every single day that I wake up.
Fucking furious and I don't fucking care anymore.
I'm Polish and this is triggering me. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, Starlight. We'll try to tone down on the amount of German that's being played on here. Let's see what else we have. Okay, I do have an update. I have something very exciting to report. I don't know if anyone saw. This is not about the UK. I don't know if anyone saw this tweet yesterday, which I replied to a certain former governor of Minnesota, a certain former professional wrestler, a certain star of the film Predator. You'll notice that I left this reply that said, Mr. Ventura, would you like to appear on my Twitch stream? I would just like to let folks know that I did receive an interesting DM a few moments ago from one Tyrell Ventura at Tyrell Watching, who said, were you interested in booking Jesse Ventura? To which I replied, yes, absolutely. So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves about any possible guest appearances that could be taking place on this program. But we will see. We will see about former governor of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura, possibly making an appearance on this very stream. Exclusive update. Exclusive update for you, folks. Jesse the Mind. How much of a dream is that for you? It's a pretty big one. It's up there. It is up there. That shit'll make you a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. Correct. And I'm only going to ask him questions about wrestling. Which conspiracy are you going to ask him about? I will definitely ask him about JFK. For sure. I don't want to start planning like that's an actual real thing that's happening. But it is a possibility. It is a possibility. Okay? That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying to you folks, that it's a possibility. We're going to see. Okay? We will see. Oh, this seems helpful. We can go back to the UK. Can you tell that I never really planned this segment at all? Is that obvious to you? In light of Liz Truss's resignation, I made this chart to explain UK politics for anyone confused. People in charge of the UK named Elizabeth. You can see right here. See the thread on this vote that sunk her. Okay, let's see. Sunk her? Hardly knew her. But seriously, folks. I appreciate not everyone is a massive nerd, so I'm going to attempt to explain what just happened in Parliament, because it is beyond batshit levels of foot shooting by Team Truss. The opposition, repped by Ed Miliband, here called a vote on extending the fracking moratorium. This is a trap, a really obvious one. One that had a sign on it that said, trap, a series of billboards extending a mile down the road saying, trap in 1 mile, etc. It was a trap that would only work if Team Truss made it a 3-line whip vote, i.e. you must vote with the government or you don't get to be a Tory anymore, and declared it a confidence vote in her government. It could be avoided by not doing the above. And you'd have to be really stupid to make it a 3-line whip and confidence vote, because the only person who likes fracking in the Tory party is Rees-Mogg. I presume at some point we'll find if he's invested in it somehow, like everything else he likes. I don't doubt it. And someone asked a few months ago if the Conservatives were more to the right of the Democratic Party in the United States, and or if the Democratic Party was to their right. And then you can see on this case, they clearly are. And their own voters hate it. Fracking is a thing you do not want to be associated with a Tory MP right now. So to reiterate, the absolute worst thing you could do would be to declare it a 3-line whip in a confidence vote in your own government. Team Truss immediately declared it a 3-line whip in a confidence vote in her government. This meant 2 hours of very pissed off Tory MPs, to the point where people who would shill for Satan if he had a blue rosette were standing up in the Commons and saying, to paraphrase, "Fuck this shit. I can't believe I have to vote yes for this. Why are you making me do this?" Meanwhile, Ed Miliband is just watching it and laughing at the chaos. Then right at the end of the debate, a junior minister stands up and says, well, actually, people can vote how they like because this isn't a confidence vote. And Ed Miliband, astonished, is just watching. He's loving it. This is getting into like a little bit of the Tumblr kind of language, which I'm trying to avoid. To my theory book club heads, isn't this giving real party of order vibes in 18th Brumaire? Ask Jesse about the BC NDP and what he thinks he can do about it. I will ask him about that. Now we have a procession of Tory MPs who have just been shilling reluctantly for fracking, standing up and asking the minister if this is or isn't a confidence vote. He says that's for other people to say, despite him just saying it whilst literally being a minister. As the debate ends and voting begins, word starts to filter in that the government have bottled it. It's no longer a 3-line whip, but people are voting. And Rees-Mogg is shouting, and whips are dragging people into the government lobby. Full post-Miliband chaos is underway. This is a long thread. I kind of regret getting into this. Okay, but it's still kind of interesting. Amidst this, nobody seems to know whether the Tory chief whip has just resigned in disgust or been sacked or even existed at all. So the results come in and the government has won the vote, but everyone's furious because still no one is entirely sure if it was a confidence vote or not. Until the results break down, at which point it becomes clear that the most definitely was not a confidence vote for the simple fucking reason that Liz Truss abstained. So she threatened her own MPs, then didn't even vote for it herself. Nor did the now ex-chief whip, Wendy Morton, which presumably goes a long way to explaining the X part of that, whether by choice or not. So there we go. That's what happened. That's what happened. She did a cheeky self-immolation. It's a bloody shambles, isn't it? It's bloody mental. Kind of weird how Miliband pulled this off and not say Starmer. It is kind of weird, isn't it? Starmer is just such an empty suit. And that's what I mean. It's like, I'm stunned that the level of incompetence that has happened that has led it that they might actually form the next government despite standing for nothing and pissing off like legions of their own supporters as they did in the whole Corbyn debacle. And like we've been watching those Labour files about the way that Starmer himself and the Labour Party establishment purposely like destroyed their own party's chances of winning. And they might actually still win. It's really stunning. But if they do, what is that actually going to mean? Are they going to do anything? Obviously not. Do UK PMs get a lifetime check and security forever like US presidents do? I think I saw someone in the chat saying yes, they did. Boris is like, you couldn't live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me. So it's just basically a debacle, right? We talked about the debacle in the BC NDP. This also a debacle. I wonder if there's one more thing we can like take a look at here about this. Just looking to see if I can find one more like amusing thing we can take a look at. I don't know. I don't know, folks. This segment has not been good. I'm the first to admit. I've tried to deliver a good Liz Truss segment, and in all honesty, I have been floundering. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for bearing with me through this as I struggle through this Liz Truss segment that I did not prepare for in any way. Very obviously. But I did some important journalism before, right? That was cool. That wasn't so bad. That was pretty good, that part, right? We're all doing our best. Liz Truss failed us, not the other way around. Thank you, Red Wine TRRS. By the way, folks, if you want to subscribe to this great stream that I prepare for very meticulously, obviously, if you want to support this professional streamer seamlessly able to transition between these different subjects, as I have obviously done throughout the last 3 hours or so, you can indeed support the work that I do.
You've just become an elite member
of the
Friendship Triangle.
Oh my goodness. I think Red Wine TRRS has been drinking. Red Wine TRRS has been drinking. And that's the only possible explanation for someone gifting an astounding 10 subs after this incredibly not well thought out segment. Red Wine Terroirist, thank you so much. That is very, very kind of you. Thank you. Hang on, I'm going to do the sound. One day I will automate this, but today is not that day. You ready for this? You ready for this? Here we go. This is for you, Red Wine Terroirist.
Wow. Okay, Rob. Seriously, wow.
Thank you very much, Red Wine Terroirist. I have, but also I got a cash back from Samsung, and their money is now yours. You're a war criminal. Thank you, Red Wine Terroirist. Very kind of you. And if anyone else does want to support this stream, you can do so by subscribing for $5 a month. You can use your Twitch Prime account, your Amazon Prime account to subscribe completely free of charge. Costs nothing at all. You can gift subscriptions or friend coin, get access to all the wonderful emotes that I have on this channel, of which we should probably even put even more soon. Get access to this wonderful community. It costs barely anything at all. You can lose $5 per month and not even notice it. And it helps me out tremendously. It helps keep this content on the air, and it gives you access to this absolutely incredible community, not just of colleagues and fellow chatters, and me, myself. We're all friends now. We become friends. And if you need friends, I know Liz Truss needs friends right now. If you're watching, Prime Minister Truss, if you're watching, you can also be our friend as well by subscribing to this very program. And anyone else, that goes out for anyone else as well. We all need somebody to lean on. As the famous song goes, I love my Kim Il-sung emote thanks to this channel. I believe this is the only Kim Il-sung emote that is available on the platform of Twitch. So if you like unsubscribed viewer, non-subscriber, lurker, if you want to use an emote of former Korean leader Kim Il-sung on other Twitch channels, you can do so by subscribing to this show and get access to all the other wonderful emotes. It's also the only Enver's Hoja emote that I know of. Do you know of any other Twitch channels that have Enver's Hoja emotes? I don't think you do. I don't think you do. And we're all besties with Jesse Ventura. That's correct. That's absolutely right. Shocked Twitch let you have it. I imagine that if I ever end up getting to like a slightly more prominent place in this platform, I'm sure they will come for me and take away all my emotes. I have no doubt. I'm sure I'll get in all kinds of trouble for all the various emotes of all the socialist and revolutionary and anti-imperialist leaders that I have on this channel. I have no doubt they'll eventually come for me. But until that day, we can still use these things. We can still use these emotes, these wonderful emotes. They will never take Momo Mad from us, no. They may take Knife Rob. I hope not. They may take Knife Rob eventually. But today will not be that day. My subscription to the TRRS show reduced my constant existential dread to a mere gentle pessimism. I would be very sad if they took away Knife Rob. Or say Rob Knife. There's instability in the realm. Momo is the greatest communist leader in your collection. That is also true. That is also true. So any more takers, folks? Any more takers? We could get to 25 subs, right? We could get to 25. We could do that.
Liz Truss hasn't achieved much distinction.
Today, serious journalism.
Liz Truss hasn't.
Count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Red Wine TRRS, thank you for gifting another sub to Monsieur Balls. Valued community member, Monsieur Balls. Thank you. Red Wine TRRS actually absolutely carrying the stream today. One day, Rob will have an emote of a woman who isn't crying. Today, also not that day. He didn't even notice me gifting two. Did I not thank you for that, Comrade Social Distancing? Really? Why did I say that in the high-talking voice? Comrade Social Distancing. I apologize to you for not thanking you earlier for the 2 gifted subs. I was sure that I did, but thank you again, and thank you for all the support that you've shown me in this channel. It really, really does mean a whole lot. And I apologize for leaving you out
You've
before.
Just become an elite member.
I ugly cried for an hour.
Triangle.
Oh, no. That's not what I want. I appreciate you. I appreciate you very much, Comrade Social Distancing. And thank you to Gen X Bushy. Gen X Bushy with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so, so much to Gen X Bushy as well. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. Do you also apologize for the high voice? Yes, I do. I don't know what that was. I do not know what that was. We don't have a Kim Yo Jong emote. That would be a good one, actually. That would be a good one. We got to get the whole Kim family. You know, we're big Kim family supporters over here. Let's hear more about Liz Truss, and then I'm going to say goodbye pretty soon.
Liz Truss hasn't achieved much distinction since she became Prime Minister until now, because finally it turns out there's something she's the very best at, and that's being the worst. Polling from YouGov shows that Truss's favourability ratings stand at -70. That's the worst favourability rating of any party leader since polling began. She's a full 17 points below Boris Johnson's worst score and only 10 points more popular than Prince Andrew. But it's not just her own reputation that Truss has managed to completely trash. She's taking the entire Tory party with her. According to YouGov, 77% of Britons now disapprove of the government. That's the worst polling any government has had in 11 years of polling. Only 7% of the population approve of its record, which is probably why the Tories are so desperate to get rid of her. More than half of all Conservative members think it's time for Truss to go, and that includes more than a third of those members who actually voted for her. So bizarrely, more than half of the people who picked her for the job are sticking to their guns. They don't yet have buyer's remorse. Let's say she goes. Who is likely to replace her? Well, we might see the return of Boris Johnson. According to YouGov, a third of Tory members want him back. The next most popular runner, Rishi Sunak, trails behind him by almost 10 points. Though given what a mess they've made of it last time, it's unlikely that the Tory membership will get a say this time around.
I just don't think she'll ever be able to rid herself of the loser stench that is just clinging to her right now. I mean, if Boris Johnson comes back, I'm done. I'm out. I can't anymore. That's would be absolutely absurd.
Who gets to decide that? Maybe it would be a novel idea. You could have some kind of vote or election at some point. That could be one thing. Can they do that? Getting replaced by Bojo would be the funniest outcome. It really would be. And I support it just on that level. And honestly, I think I have such little confidence in Starmer that regardless of any of this shit, I think Johnson would probably defeat Starmer in a election. I really do.
But I'm not going to put anything past this Conservative party. Already being the most unpopular leader since polling began, it's actually hard to overstate how much of a significant achievement that actually is. You have to be so impeccably talented at being rubbish in order to get that. I'm almost quite impressed. There's actually something that she's managed to excel at. Not only is she so unpopular that she's managed to counteract that post-election bounce that new leaders normally get, but her unpopularity even counteracted the death of the Queen, during which time you would expect people to be
Sam, I feel like over the tipping point now. Labour's going to win in the landslide, and I'm just I'm already just bracing myself, as I'm sure you are, Sam, for the fucking smug pricks in the Labour Party to be bragging and gloating over their political genius. God, if that is the actual outcome, I'm already bracing myself for how fucking horrible that's going to be. These Blairite losers are going to be talking all about how their political genius. I'm really not looking forward to that. Even though I'm sure that the Blairite Labour Party would probably be a better or more competent leadership than what is happening in the UK. It is not going to, obviously, it's not going to address any of the fundamental issues that have caused any of these crises, considering the forcefulness with which they pushed back on Jeremy Corbyn's ultimately very mild social democracy. And his talk of nationalization of these things. They came together to get rid of him when he was talking about this like he was fucking Stalin himself. So obviously, even if they do win in a landslide, there'll be a lot of smug commentary about it from these Blairite centrists. Will they actually solve any of the problems, though? No. We all know that they won't.
At their most kind of fuzzy and, British and all about unity and all of that. Any normal prime minister would have gotten a few easy brownie points by just shedding a few tears and making a few speeches.
Yeah, all we had to do is make sure the Tories won. Then a short 3 years later and countless preventable deaths, we won. There you go. That's the Blairite political genius in the Labour Party establishment. The political cycle in the UK is a hamster wheel. Labour will do some stuff, but nothing close to enough. And then after probably 2 terms, the Tories will be back in. Yes, they will. And the only thing they in the gutter press would say is that despite Corbyn, they won. And I would have to go, I can't even repeat that comment. Red wine TRRS, but I hear
about the Queen, but her vibes are literally so bad that nothing else could compete. It's quite impressive. If there's one thing she can give herself credit for, it's that.
And one other thing that Liz Truss can and should take credit for. It's called playing the long game, folks.
Any of them
It's called playing the long game. And we've had a lot of commentary, a lot of dismissive comments, mocking this girl boss queen who fucking got in there and in 45 short days does what any committed revolutionary spends a whole lifetime dreaming of.
I'm not against any of them personally. I'm against the idea that people can be born to rule. That people, because of the family they're born into, should be able to be the head of state of our country. I think that's disgraceful.
You got to hand it to her, folks. You got to hand it to her. She will spend her whole career waiting for this moment and picked her spots. She hid her true power level from all of us. And I respect that. She got in, killed the queen, destroyed the country, and got out. Thank you, friends. Thanks for watching the stream today. I hope it was okay. I don't really feel like I had the stuff today. Well, hold on one sec. Sorry about that. That was Jesse Ventura just giving me a call just to say hey. He said, I'm Jesse Ventura, and I love the TRRS stream. Will you stop? What a great combo. What a great duo. Hello, Echoes. Thank you for joining us. Very briefly. Yeah, I didn't feel great about the stream today, but I'm happy that some people seem to enjoy it. Okay. I suppose I can pause my parasocial obsession for another day. You don't need to pause that. No need. No need to pause that. I'll be back tomorrow with... we got some China content tomorrow. We got some China content. Okay? A classic TRRS New Cold War segment. Red Wine TRRS, I just want you to know that I'm reading your comments, but I think some of them are like... could possibly be construed as threatening harm on elected officials, which obviously I don't support. But I want you to know that I'm reading them. What is the TOR? It's a Toronto Raptors hat. Left is best. It's my official Toronto Raptors championship hat. You can see it has the NBA championship trophy on there. Of course, the 2019 NBA champions, as I'm sure everyone remembers. Thanks for streaming. Great interview. Good chatting, everybody. Thank you, Carnova. I appreciate you. Thank you. Going into the woods now like Jesse Ventura. Hell yeah. We're going to get off the grid. We're going to be in the compound. I'll be driving to a real-life TRRS meetup tomorrow. All these unsanctioned meetups going on. Now we got Red Scary missing the stream. Literally missing the stream to go to an unsanctioned meetup. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Again, I'm like, it's the end of Fight Club. I'm just going to start going around all these different cities in America and Canada. Have I been here? Everyone's looking at me and winking at me. Your money's no good here, sir. I do not live near any raw beds, so I just do meetups in my brain. That works too. That works as well. Okay, what's going on here? You know who I haven't rated for a while is Touring News. Who I know does a lot of talk about, economics and this coming global financial crisis. That seems to be what he's talking about today. And the raid didn't work. Good. Good. Let's try this now. We are unable to raid Touring News at this time. Okay. If you ever end up in Baltimore, Rob, your money will be useless for sure. And you folks are too kind. You folks are really too kind. I appreciate you all very much. Do you have any mods here at all? Do you have any mods in the chat right now? I think, John, if you give a /raid Touring News, you can get out of here. Why would I be able to raid anyone? That wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense for me to be able to do that, would it? No, a slash raid. A slash. Slash raid isn't working. Awesome. Good. Okay. Well, I guess I just don't have to leave. I'll just stay here. If you ever end up in the UK, I will help you push your wheelbarrow full of worthless money. That sounds wonderful. Guess we just have to keep streaming. I literally can't raid anybody. I can't raid. What are we doing now? I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what we're doing. It'll just stare at the screen. How about that? What if I just stare at the screen? Oh, I tried raiding from the creator dashboard. I tried. Believe me. Okay, I gotta go. Go watch whatever stream you want, okay? Go watch whatever stream you want. Who cares? I'll talk to you tomorrow.